The morning sun blazed over Manila as 7-year-old Sophia padded barefoot through the business district. Her small feet were dusty from the unpaved roads of her neighborhood, and her faded pink dress hung loose on her tiny frame. While executives in crisp suits hurried past with their coffee cups and briefcases, Sophia clutched a crumpled piece of paper close to her chest. She had one mission: find work to save her mama. That morning, her mother Elena had collapsed again. The neighbor who sometimes checked on them had shaken her head sadly. The pharmacy won't give any more medicine without payment, Sophia. I'm sorry. Sophia remembered stories the street vendors told about Mr. Chen, the tech billionaire whose company owned the gleaming tower that touched the clouds. They said he was cold and never smiled, but Sophia didn't care about that. She needed someone powerful enough to help. The lobby of Chen Technologies made Sophia feel impossibly small. Everything sparkled, the marble floors reflected her dirty feet, and the air conditioning made her shiver. A security guard spotted her immediately. "Hey, little girl, this isn't a place for children. Where are your parents?" Sophia's voice was barely a whisper. "Please, sir. I need to work. My mama is very sick." The guard laughed, not unkindly, but dismissively. "Work? You're just a child. Go home." But Sophia didn't leave. She sat down on the cold floor near a potted plant and waited. She had nowhere else to go, and giving up meant watching her mother fade away. An hour passed. Then 2. Office workers glanced at her curiously. Some whispered. A few looked concerned, but no one approached, until Maria, Mr. Chen's personal assistant, came through the lobby. Maria was known for her efficiency and sharp tongue, but when she saw the small girl sitting patiently with tears streaming down her face, something in her softened. "Sweetheart, what's your name?" Maria knelt beside her. "Sophia," she whispered. "My mama has dengue fever. The doctors say she needs medicine and proper care, but we have no money. I don't want to beg. I want to work." Maria's heart clenched. She saw her younger self in those determined eyes. She too had grown up in poverty, working her way up through sheer determination. "Come with me," Maria said gently, taking Sophia's small hand. They rode the elevator to the top floor in silence. Sophia's eyes widened at how high they climbed. When the doors opened, she saw glass walls overlooking the entire city. Mr. David Chen sat behind an enormous desk, focused on multiple computer screens. He was 42, lean, and wore his usual expression of intense concentration. His black hair was streaked with premature gray. "Sir," Maria interrupted carefully, "someone is here to see you." "I have no appointments until 2, he replied without looking up. "She's 7 years old, and she wants to work for you." David's hands froze over his keyboard. He looked up, and his breath caught when he saw Sophia standing there, small and trembling but with her chin raised bravely. For a moment, neither spoke. Sophia pulled out her crumpled paper, a drawing she'd made with broken crayons. It showed a stick figure girl and a tall man, with the words, "Please help my mama," written in shaky letters. David stood slowly, his expression unreadable. He walked around his desk and stopped in front of Sophia. Something about her eyes, that mixture of fear and fierce determination, struck something deep within him. "What's your name?" His voice was softer than Maria expected. "Sophia, sir. I can clean or carry things. I learn fast. Please let me work so my mama won't die." David Chen hadn't felt his heart move in 5 years, not since losing his own daughter in a car accident. But this child's courage awakened something he thought was dead forever. "Come," he said simply, extending his hand to her. The entire office would soon be talking about what happened next. If you're enjoying Sophia's story, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for the next chapter. Share this with someone who needs to hear a story about hope and second chances. Drop a comment below telling us what you think will happen next. See you in chapter. David Chen led Sophia through his office to a private seating area by the windows. Maria brought water and some biscuits, which Sophia accepted gratefully but didn't touch until David nodded his permission. "Tell me about your mother," David said, sitting across from her. Sophia's voice was small but steady. "Her name is Elena. She worked as a seamstress, making clothes for a shop in Quiapo. But 2 weeks ago, she got very sick with fever. The doctor said it's dengue. She needs to stay in the hospital, but we can't pay." "And your father?" Sophia's eyes dropped. "He died when I was 3. He was a construction worker." "An accident." David's jaw tightened. He pulled out his phone and made a call. "Dr. Reyes, I need you to prepare a private room at Manila Grace Hospital immediately. A dengue patient named Elena." "Yes, full treatment protocol. Bill everything to my personal account." Sophia's eyes went wide. "Sir." David held up a hand as he continued. "Also, send an ambulance to." He looked at Sophia. "Where does your mother live?" With trembling lips, Sophia gave the address of their small room in Tonda. After hanging up, David studied the little girl before him. Her dress was worn but clean. Her hair, though tangled, had been braided carefully, probably by her mother that morning. Despite everything, she carried herself with dignity. "The ambulance will get your mother within the hour," David said. "We'll go to the hospital together." "But why are you helping me?" Sophia whispered. "You don't know us." David was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "My daughter would have been 9 years old this year. Her name was Lily. She had the same brave eyes you have." Understanding passed between them, 2 people carrying different kinds of loss. "Come." David stood. "Let's go see your mother." As they walked through the office toward the private elevator, employees stared in shock. David Chen, the man who hadn't shown emotion in years, was holding hands with a barefoot street child. In the car, Sophia sat quietly, her small hands folded in her lap. She kept glancing at David as if afraid he might disappear. "You really meant it about the job, didn't you?" David asked. Sophia nodded seriously. "I don't like owing people. My mama says we should always work for what we receive." "Your mother taught you well," David replied. A faint smile touched his lips, the first genuine smile Maria had seen in years. At Manila Grace Hospital, the staff moved efficiently. Elena was brought in by ambulance, weak and disoriented. When she saw Sophia with the well-dressed stranger, confusion and fear crossed her face. "Sophia, what did you do? Who is this man?" Sophia rushed to her mother's side. "Mama, don't worry. This is Mr. Chen. He's helping us. I found a job, Mama, so you can get better." David stepped forward respectfully. "Mrs. Elena, your daughter walked into my office this morning asking for work. She has more courage than most adults I know. Please let me help. You need treatment, and Sophia needs you healthy." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Sir, we cannot afford." "You don't need to afford anything," David interrupted gently. "Consider it done. Just focus on getting well." As the nurses wheeled Elena to her room, Sophia held her mother's hand until the last moment. When she finally let go, she turned to David with tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." David knelt down to her level. "Sophia, do you still want that job?" She nodded vigorously. "Then starting tomorrow, you'll come to my office every day. You'll have a desk where you can draw and learn. When you're older, if you study hard, you can work for real at my company. Deal?" Sophia's face lit up like the sun breaking through clouds. "Deal." What David didn't tell her was that he'd already made another decision, one that would change all their lives. He was going to make sure Sophia received the education and opportunities his own daughter never got to finish. As they left the hospital, David looked down at the small hand trustingly placed in his. For the first time since Lily's death, the crushing weight on his chest felt a little lighter. Perhaps saving Sophia would somehow save him too. The next morning, Manila buzzed with its usual chaos. But Sophia walked through Chen Technologies' doors feeling like a different person. She wore a simple new dress, Maria had bought it the evening before, and proper shoes that felt strange on her feet. The security guard from yesterday smiled at her. "Good morning, Sophia." She beamed back. "Good morning, sir." Word had spread through the company overnight. The boss had taken in a poor child. Reactions were mixed. Some employees thought it was a publicity stunt, others found it touching, and a few whispered that David Chen was finally losing his mind. Maria met Sophia at the elevator. "Ready for your first day?" "Yes, ma'am." David's office had been transformed. In the corner by the window sat a small desk with a chair adjusted to Sophia's height. On it were coloring books, crayons, papers, and even a children's tablet loaded with educational games. Sophia's mouth fell open. "Is this for me?" "Every worker needs a proper workspace," David said from behind his desk, not looking up from his computer but smiling slightly. For the first hour, Sophia colored quietly while David worked. The silence was comfortable, peaceful even. But then David's phone rang. An investor was angry about a delayed project. As David's voice grew tense handling the call, Sophia noticed his coffee cup was empty. Remembering what her mother always did when neighbors visited, she carefully picked up the cup and walked to where Maria sat outside. "Miss Maria, can I have more coffee for Mr. Chen? He sounds stressed." Maria's eyes softened. "That's very thoughtful, Sophia. But let me show you how he likes it." Together, they prepared a fresh cup. Sophia carried it carefully back to David's desk and set it down without spilling a drop. David, still on his call, looked at the coffee, then at Sophia, and mouthed, "Thank you." The warmth in his eyes made Sophia feel proud. By lunchtime, David did something he hadn't done in years. He left the office to eat. He took Sophia to a nearby restaurant, where she stared in wonder at the menu. "Order anything you want," David said. Sophia bit her lip. "Mama always says not to waste food. Can I order something to bring to her at the hospital?" David's throat tightened. "We'll order food for both of you. And Sophia, when you're with me, you never have to worry about being wasteful. You deserve to eat well." At the hospital after lunch, Elena cried when she saw Sophia happy and healthy. The nurses reported that her fever had broken. The medicine was working. "Mama, I have a real desk," Sophia exclaimed. "And Mr. Chen bought me lunch." Elena looked at David with overwhelming gratitude. "Sir, how can I ever repay you?" "By getting better," David replied simply. Sophia needs her mother. Over the following days, a routine developed. Sophia would arrive at the office each morning, greet everyone cheerfully, and settle at her desk. She drew pictures, did puzzle books Maria brought, and occasionally, when David had video calls, she'd sit quietly, listening. One afternoon, during a tense negotiation with Japanese investors, Sophia suddenly spoke up in her clear child's voice. "Mr. Chen, the man on the screen looks sad. Maybe he needs kindness, not arguing." The room went silent. David stared at her, then at the screen. The investor, Mr. Tanaka, looked startled. Then he laughed. "Your daughter is very wise," Mr. Tanaka said in accented English. "She's not," David started, then stopped. "She is wise. Sophia, you're right." The tone of the meeting shifted. By approaching the negotiation with more understanding and less pressure, they reached an agreement that satisfied everyone. After the call ended, David's executives looked at each other in amazement. "Sir," his chief financial officer said carefully, "did a 7-year-old just help us close a 50 million peso deal?" David laughed. Actually laughed out loud. Apparently, she did. That evening, as David drove Sophia to the hospital, she asked quietly, "Mr. Chen, can I ask you something?" "Of course. You said you had a daughter. What was she like?" David's hands tightened on the steering wheel. He'd avoided talking about Lily for so long. But somehow, with Sophia, it felt safe. "She loved butterflies," he said softly. "She collected pictures of them." And she was always asking questions. About everything. She made me laugh every single day. She sounds wonderful. She was. Do you think she would mind that you're helping me? David pulled the car over and turned to look at Sophia directly. His eyes were wet. I think she would be happy. Very happy. Sophia unbuckled her seatbelt and hugged him. A pure, innocent gesture that broke down the last of David's walls. He hugged her back, tears finally falling after 5 years of holding them in. Thank you for letting me work for you, Sophia whispered. Thank you for walking into my office, David whispered back. Neither of them noticed Maria in the car behind them, dabbing her eyes and smiling. Not everyone at Chen Technologies was happy about Sophia's presence. At the top of that list was Victoria Wong, the company's chief operating officer and David's most valued executive. Victoria was 36, brilliant, elegant, and had been secretly in love with David Chen for 3 years. She'd worked countless late nights beside him, accompanied him to international conferences, and positioned herself as indispensable. Yet David had never noticed her as anything more than a colleague. Until Sophia arrived, Victoria had believed she was slowly breaking through his grief. She'd seen glimpses of warmth when they worked together. But now, watching him smile at a child while he'd never smiled at her, jealousy burned in her chest like acid. One morning, Victoria walked into David's office without knocking. Sophia was showing David a drawing of a butterfly, her gift to him about his late daughter. We need to talk, Victoria said coldly. Privately. David looked up, frowning. Victoria, I've told you to knock. And whatever you need to say can wait. I'm busy. Busy. Victoria's voice rose. You're looking at children's drawings while we have a board meeting in 20 minutes. Sophia shrank back in her chair, clutching her picture. David's expression turned to ice. That board meeting is at 2 o'clock, and it's currently 9:30. Check your schedule. Victoria flushed red. She'd been so angry she'd gotten the time wrong. But instead of apologizing, she pointed at Sophia. Since when did Chen Technologies become a daycare center? This is unprofessional, David. That's Mr. Chen to you in this context, David said quietly, but his voice carried steel. And Sophia is here because I want her here. End of discussion. Everyone is talking, Victoria pressed on. Employees don't know how to act. Clients are asking questions. This little stunt. Stop right there. David stood up, his full height and authority filling the room. Sophia is not a stunt. She's a child who showed more courage coming here than most people show in their entire lives. If employees have questions, they can come to me directly. Victoria's eyes filled with angry tears. 3 years. David. I've stood by you for 3 years. I reorganized this entire company after Lily died. I worked beside you through everything. But a street child walks in one day, and suddenly you're human again. The office went deathly quiet. Even Sophia, young as she was, understood that something painful was being revealed. David's voice softened slightly. Victoria, I appreciate everything you've done for this company. You're an exceptional executive. But if you're expecting something personal from me... I'm not expecting anything anymore, Victoria cut him off bitterly. She turned and walked out, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. Sophia looked up at David with worried eyes. Mr. Chen, is Miss Victoria angry because of me? David sat down and pulled his chair closer to Sophia's small desk. No, Sophia. She's angry because of feelings that have nothing to do with you. Sometimes adults make their problems bigger than they need to be. My mama says jealousy makes people forget their kindness. David smiled sadly. Your mama is very wise. But Victoria wasn't finished. Over the next week, she began a subtle campaign. She whispered to board members about David's inappropriate attachment to a random child. She suggested to investors that he was becoming unstable. She planted seeds of doubt carefully, professionally, always with concern in her voice. "I'm just worried about him," she'd say. "Since his daughter died, he hasn't been the same. Now this obsession with a street child? It's concerning." Maria noticed what was happening and warned David. "Sir, Victoria is talking to people. She's trying to turn the board against you." David sighed heavily. "I know. But I won't defend myself by pushing Sophia away. That would be exactly what Victoria wants." "Then what will you do?" "I'll let the board members see the truth for themselves." The opportunity came sooner than expected. The quarterly board meeting was scheduled for Friday, and all 12 board members would be present, including Victoria. The night before the meeting, David sat in his apartment, reviewing documents. His phone rang. It was the hospital. "Mr. Chin, Elena has had a setback. Her platelet count dropped suddenly. We need to monitor her closely." David's heart sank. "I'll be right there." At the hospital, he found Sophia sitting beside her mother's bed, holding Elena's hand and singing softly to her. The little girl's voice was shaky with fear, but she kept singing, a lullaby her mother had taught her. Elena was unconscious, her face pale. The monitors beeped steadily but worryingly. "Sophia," David said gently, kneeling beside her. "Your mama is strong. She's going to fight this." "I'm scared," Sophia whispered, her brave face finally crumbling. "What if she leaves me like Papa did?" David pulled her into his arms. "Then you won't be alone. I promise you that. No matter what happens, I'll make sure you're taken care of." Sophia cried against his shoulder while David held her, his own tears falling silently. He thought of Lily, of how he'd held her the same way before she died. He'd failed his daughter by not being in the car with her that night. But he wouldn't fail Sophia. They stayed at the hospital all night. David cancelled his morning meetings and sat with Sophia, reading to her, distracting her with stories while the doctors worked to stabilize Elena. By dawn, Elena's condition had improved enough for them to breathe easier. Sophia had fallen asleep in the chair, exhausted. David gently carried her to a more comfortable couch and covered her with his jacket. Maria arrived with fresh clothes and breakfast. "The board meeting is in 4 hours." "I know," David said quietly, looking at sleeping Sophia. "Get the car ready. We're bringing Sophia with us." The Chen Technologies boardroom sat on the 20th floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manila Bay. 12 board members filed in at exactly 2 o'clock, taking their seats around the massive mahogany table. Victoria entered last, her expression carefully neutral, but her eyes gleamed with anticipation. Then David walked in, and everyone froze. He was carrying Sophia in his arms. The little girl was awake now, wearing a fresh dress Maria had brought, but her eyes were red from crying and lack of sleep. "Good afternoon," David said calmly, settling Sophia in a chair beside his at the head of the table. "Thank you all for coming." Mr. Reyes, the eldest board member, cleared his throat. "David, is this appropriate? We have sensitive company matters to discuss." "Sophia stays," David said simply. "Now, let's begin with quarterly earnings." Victoria leaned forward. "Before we start, I think we need to address the elephant in the room. David, the board has concerns about your recent behavior. You've been distracted, making emotional decisions, bringing a child to work." "Bringing Sophia to work has been the best decision I've made in 5 years," David interrupted calmly. He pulled out his tablet and projected numbers onto the screen. "Since Sophia started coming to the office 2 weeks ago, our team's morale has increased by 23%. Employee satisfaction surveys show people are happier. Productivity is up 12% across all departments." Victoria's eyes widened. "That's just coincidence." "Is it?" David clicked to the next slide. "We've had 3 major deals close in 2 weeks. The Japanese contract I'd been struggling with for months? Done. The Singapore merger that was falling apart? Signed. The government infrastructure bid everyone said we'd lose? We won." The board members looked at each other, surprised. David continued. Sophia reminds my employees of what they're working for. Family, security, hope. She walks through that office, and people remember why they go home at night. They remember what matters. Sophia sat quietly, not fully understanding the business talk but sensing it was important. She clutched the butterfly drawing she'd made for David. Victoria wasn't done. But David, we need to think about perception. What do clients think when they see a street child in our CEO's office? What message does that send? It sends the message that Chen Technologies cares about people, not just profits, David replied. It says we remember where we came from. My father started this company in a garage with nothing. Should we forget that? Mr. Reyes nodded slowly. The boy has a point. But the attachment seems... Victoria searched for words. Unhealthy. You're replacing your lost daughter with a random child. It's not appropriate. The room went silent. Several board members looked uncomfortable. David's voice turned cold. Be very careful, Victoria. You're crossing a line. Am I? Victoria stood up, her control slipping. Everyone can see it, David. You're trying to replace Lily. But you can't. This child isn't your daughter. She's a stranger whose mother probably saw you as an easy target. Sophia gasped. David's hand slammed on the table so hard that everyone jumped. That's enough. His voice thundered through the room. You will not disrespect Sophia or her mother in my presence ever again. Victoria's face went pale, but she pushed forward. I'm saying what everyone else is thinking. You're being manipulated by a sad story. In 6 months, they'll ask for more money, then more, and this company will become your personal charity. Security. David's voice cut through her words. 2 security officers appeared at the door within seconds. David stood, his presence dominating the room. Victoria Wong, you're dismissed from this meeting. You're suspended pending a full board review of your position. You can't do that. Victoria's voice rose shrilly. I own shares. I have rights. And I control 51% of this company, David said coldly. Which means I can do exactly that. Gentlemen, please escort Ms. Wong from the building. As security approached, Victoria's composure shattered completely. You're throwing away everything for a street child. She's using you, David. Can't you see that? The only person using anyone here is you, Victoria. You've spent 3 years trying to manipulate my grief into something personal. I'm not interested, and I never will be. The truth, spoken so plainly, hit Victoria like a physical blow. Her face crumpled, and for a moment, David almost felt sorry for her. But then she looked at Sophia with such hatred that his sympathy vanished. Remove her, he said quietly. As Victoria was escorted out, her angry sobs echoing down the hallway, the remaining board members sat in stunned silence. Sophia's small voice broke the quiet. Mr. Chen? I don't want to cause problems. David knelt beside her chair. You're not causing problems, Sophia. Some people just have trouble seeing what's truly valuable. He turned back to the board. Does anyone else have concerns about Sophia being here? Mrs. Cruz, one of the younger board members, raised her hand hesitantly. May I ask Sophia a question? David nodded. Mrs. Cruz smiled gently at Sophia. Sweetheart, what do you do in Mr. Chen's office all day? Sophia thought carefully. I draw pictures. I do puzzle books. Sometimes I bring Mr. Chen coffee when he's stressed. And I try to be very quiet when he's working on important things. Do you like being there? Sophia nodded earnestly. Mr. Chen is very kind. He makes sure I visit my mama every day. He bought me new clothes and shoes. And he teaches me things about business and being brave. What has he taught you about business? Sophia's face grew serious, making her look oddly mature. He taught me that being successful isn't just about money. It's about treating people with respect and remembering where you came from. And that real power is using your strength to help people who are weaker. The boardroom was silent. Then Mr. Reyes started clapping. One by one, the other board members joined in. David, Mr. Reyes said, I think this young lady just summarized our company values better than any mission statement we've written. I vote she stays. All in favor? David asked. Every hand went up except one abstention, Victoria's business partner, who looked uncomfortable but not hostile. The motion carries, David said. Now, can we please discuss the quarterly earnings? The meeting proceeded normally after that. Sophia colored quietly while the adults talked about numbers and strategies. Occasionally, David would glance at her and smile, and she'd smile back. When the meeting ended, Mrs. Cruz approached them. Mr. Chin, my daughter is Sophia's age. Perhaps they could have a playdate sometime. Before David could answer, Sophia looked up hopefully. Really? I've never had a friend before. Mrs. Cruz's eyes filled with tears. Then it's definitely happening. As the board members filed out, several stopped to pat Sophia's head or smile at her. The message was clear. Sophia was accepted. David gathered the papers while Sophia packed up her crayons. Ready to go see your mama? He asked. Yes, please. She paused. Mr. Chen? I'm sorry that lady was so angry. That wasn't your fault, Sophia. Never think that. But she loved you, and you love me instead. That made her sad. David stopped and looked at Sophia in surprise. She was far more perceptive than he'd realized. Sophia, I don't love you instead of anyone. Love isn't limited. My heart has room for many people. Victoria wanted something I couldn't give her. Not because of you, but because those feelings were never there to begin with. Sophia nodded slowly. Mama says you can't force people to love you. You can only be worthy of love and hope it finds you. Your mother is absolutely right. David held out his hand. Come on. Let's go tell her about your first board meeting. As they walked to the elevator, Maria was waiting with a knowing smile. That went better than expected. Sophia has that effect on people, David replied. She makes everything better. What he didn't say, but what Maria saw clearly in his eyes, was that Sophia hadn't just made the company better. She'd made David himself better. More human, more compassionate, more alive. And that, Maria thought, was worth more than any quarterly earnings report. 3 weeks had passed since the dramatic board meeting. Victoria had been formally removed from her position, accepting a generous severance package in exchange for her silence and shares. The company was thriving, and Sophia had become a beloved fixture in the office. But something was weighing on Elena's heart. She'd recovered well from dengue, strong enough now to move around with assistance. David had arranged for her to stay in a comfortable recovery suite at the hospital, insisting she remain under medical supervision for another week. One evening, as Sophia colored pictures at the small table in Elena's room, Elena watched her daughter with tears in her eyes. She'd been keeping a secret for 7 years, a secret that grew heavier with every kindness David showed them. Sophia, my love, Elena said softly, would you go ask the nurse for some extra juice? I'm very thirsty. Sophia bounced up immediately. Yes, Mama. She skipped out happily. Elena immediately reached for her phone and sent a text to David. Mr. Chen, I need to speak with you privately. It's urgent. Please come to the hospital tonight. Without Sophia. David was in his apartment, reviewing documents, when the text came. His heart immediately worried. Was Elena having medical complications? He texted back, I'll be there in 20 minutes. Is everything all right with your health? Elena's response was simple. I'm physically fine. But there's something you need to know about Sophia's past. David's stomach tightened with anxiety as he drove to the hospital. What could Elena need to tell him that Sophia couldn't hear? When he arrived, Elena was sitting up in bed, looking nervous. A nurse was watching Sophia in the playroom down the hall. Elena had arranged it carefully. Thank you for coming, Elena said, her voice shaking. Please sit down. David sat in the chair beside her bed, concern written across his face. What's wrong? Are you sure you're not ill? I'm not ill, Elena said, then took a deep breath. But I haven't been honest with you about something important. About Sophia. David's expression became guarded. What about her? Elena's tears started flowing before she could speak. Sophia isn't my biological daughter. The words hung in the air. David went very still. 7 years ago, Elena continued, I was working as a seamstress in Quiapo. One early morning, I heard crying behind the textile warehouse where I was heading to work. I found a newborn baby wrapped in a towel, left in a cardboard box. David's breathing became shallow. There was a note, Elena said, pulling a worn, folded paper from her bedside drawer. I've kept it all these years. With trembling hands, she gave it to David. He unfolded it carefully, reading the faded handwriting. I cannot keep this baby. I got pregnant from a one-night encounter at Star Paradise Resort in Tagaytay. I was working there as a server. A kind businessman stayed one night, but I never got his name. I was young and stupid. I'm sick now with tuberculosis and have no family to help me raise a child. Please, whoever finds her, give her a better life than I can. Her birthday is March 15th, 2018. Forgive me. David's hands began to shake. Star Paradise Resort. Tagaytay. March 2018. His mind raced back 7 years. He'd gone to Tagaytay for a business retreat. One night, he'd felt unusually ill after dinner. Later he'd suspected someone had drugged his drink, though he never found out who or why. He remembered waking up confused in his room, with vague memories of a young woman who'd been very kind, helping him to his room. A week later that woman, he'd never known her name, had disappeared from the resort. He'd tried to find her to thank her and make sure she was all right, but the management said she'd quit abruptly. Mr. Chen. Elena's voice broke through his thoughts. Are you all right? What was the date? David's voice was hoarse. The exact date she was born? March 15th, 2018. I found her on March 16th, just hours old. Why? David stood abruptly and walked to the window, his mind reeling. He pulled out his phone and checked his calendar history. March 2018. There it was, the Tagaytay business retreat, March 14th to 16th. His heart was pounding so hard he thought it might burst. Mr. Chen, Elena said desperately, I'm telling you this because I'm terrified. You've been so good to us. But what if Sophia's real family comes looking for her? What if they take her away? I have no legal rights to her. I'm not officially her guardian. I just kept her because no one else wanted her. David turned around slowly. Elena, I need to ask you something very important. Do you know what Star Paradise Resort looks like? Elena looked confused. No, I've never been there. Why? Because I was there, David said quietly. That exact weekend. March 2018. Elena's eyes went wide. You think? I need to do a DNA test, David said, his voice barely above a whisper. Elena, I think Sophia might be my biological daughter. The room spun. Elena gripped the bedsheets. But how? The note said. The note said a businessman stayed one night. I was there on business. I was drugged, or at least I think I was. Everything from that night is blurry. David ran his hands through his hair. There was a young woman who helped me to my room. I tried to find her afterward to thank her, but she'd disappeared. Oh my God, Elena whispered. All this time. David sat down heavily. If Sophia is my daughter, then she came into my office seeking help from her own father, and I didn't even know. Tears streamed down both their faces. What do we do? Elena asked. We do the test. Quietly. And Elena, David looked at her seriously, No matter what the results say, Sophia stays with us. With both of us. You raised her. You're her mother in every way that matters. Elena sobbed. I was so afraid you'd take her away from me. Never, David said firmly. You gave her life when someone else abandoned her. You're her mother. The test will just tell us who else loves her. 2 days later, David sat in his office alone, holding an envelope from the DNA laboratory. His hands trembled as he opened it. The words blurred as tears filled his eyes. Probability of paternity. 99.97%. Sophia was his daughter. His blood. His child. The little girl who'd walked barefoot into his office begging for work was the daughter he never knew he had. While he'd been grieving for Lily, another daughter had been growing up in poverty, struggling to survive. David broke down, sobbing at his desk. 7 years. 7 years Sophia had lived without him, without resources, without the father she deserved. I'm so sorry, he whispered to the photo of Sophia on his desk. I'm so sorry I didn't find you sooner. Maria knocked and entered quietly. She'd been expecting this. She'd seen the way David looked at Sophia, the deep connection that transcended normal kindness. The test results came, she asked gently. David nodded, unable to speak. She's yours. She's mine, David confirmed, his voice breaking. She's been mine all along. Maria smiled through her own tears. What will you tell her? The truth. She deserves the truth. David wiped his eyes. But first, I need to do something. He picked up his phone and called his lawyer. Martin, I need you to prepare guardianship papers. I want to legally adopt a child named Sophia. And I want Elena listed as co-guardian with full parental rights. Can you do that? Of course, David. When do you need them? Yesterday, David replied. But I'll settle for tomorrow. That evening, David took Sophia to their favorite restaurant, a small Filipino eatery she loved because they served her mother's favorite dishes. As they ate, Sophia chattered happily about her day. Miss Maria taught me to count to 100 in English and Tagalog. And Mr. Reyes from the board brought me chocolate. David watched her, memorizing every expression, every gesture. His daughter. His precious daughter. Sophia, he said gently, interrupting her story about chocolate. Can I tell you something important? She nodded, suddenly serious. Yes, Mr. Chen. First, I want you to know that your mama Elena loves you very much. She's your real mother in every way that matters. Do you understand that? Sophia nodded firmly. Mama saved me. She's my whole world. Good. That won't change. David took a deep breath. But Sophia, I found out something amazing. Do you remember how I told you about my daughter Lily? The one who liked butterflies? Yes. Well, Lily was my daughter, and I loved her very much. But Sophia, I found out that I have another daughter too. A daughter I didn't know about for a very long time. Sophia's eyes widened. Really? Where is she? David smiled through tears. She's sitting right in front of me. Sophia blinked. Once. Twice. Me. You, my precious girl. You're my biological daughter. Sophia's mouth fell open. For a long moment, she just stared at him. Then, in a very small voice, she asked, Does that mean you're my real daddy? Yes, Sophia. I'm your real father. I didn't know until now, but you've been my daughter all along. But you already act like my daddy, Sophia said, confused. What's different? David laughed wetly. Nothing's different except now it's official. And now I can tell you every single day that you're my daughter and mean it in every possible way. Sophia slipped out of her chair and climbed into David's lap, wrapping her small arms around his neck. I always wished for a daddy, she whispered. And Mama too. Is it okay to have both? It's more than okay, David whispered back, holding her tight. It's perfect. They stayed like that for a long time, father and daughter, finally united by truth. The next morning, David, Sophia, and Elena sat together in Elena's hospital room. The atmosphere was thick with emotion. Sophia sat between them on the bed, holding both their hands. "Mama," Sophia said quietly, looking at Elena with worried eyes, "Mr. Chen told me he's my real daddy. Are you sad?" Elena pulled Sophia close, tears streaming down her face. "Oh, my sweet girl, no. I'm not sad. I'm happy, so happy that you have a father who loves you." "But I don't want a new mama," Sophia said firmly. "You're my mama. You've always been my mama. And I always will be," Elena assured her. "David and I talked about this. I'll always be your mother, Sophia. Nothing changes that." David knelt beside the bed. "Sophia, you're not losing anyone. You're gaining. You have Mama Elena who raised you with love. And now you have me, your father. Some children are lucky enough to have two parents. You have two parents who would do anything for you." Sophia looked between them, her young mind processing this big change. "So I have a mama and a daddy now?" "Yes," they both said together. A slow smile spread across Sophia's face. That's really good." Everyone laughed through their tears. David pulled out an envelope. "Sophia, Mama Elena, I have something for both of you." He handed documents to Elena. "These are guardianship papers. They make it legal. Sophia is my daughter, but you are also her legal guardian with full parental rights. We share her. We're her family together." Elena covered her mouth, overwhelmed. "David, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," David replied simply. "Say you'll let me be part of this family you've built." "Yes," Elena whispered. "Yes, of course." Sophia clapped her hands. "Does this mean we all live together?" David and Elena exchanged glances. They hadn't discussed that yet. "Well," David said carefully, "Mama Elena is still recovering. When she's better, we'll figure out the best arrangement. But yes, Sophia, we'll be together as much as possible." Over the next week, David made arrangements. He hired a private tutor to continue Sophia's education while ensuring she still came to the office. It had become important to both of them. He also began preparing a room in his penthouse apartment for Sophia, painting it in soft yellows and pinks, filling it with books and toys. But he also did something else. He purchased a beautiful house with 3 bedrooms in a safe neighborhood. One room for Sophia, one for Elena, and one that could be a guest room or his room, depending on how things developed. When Elena was finally discharged from the hospital, David drove both her and Sophia to the new house. "Where are we going?" Elena asked, confused. "Home," David said simply. When they pulled up to the 2-story house with a small garden, Elena gasped. "David, this is too much." "It's not enough," David interrupted. "You saved my daughter's life. You raised her to be kind, brave, and generous. This is just a house, Elena. You and Sophia will make it a home." Sophia ran through the house squealing with delight. "Mama, I have a room with windows. And there are flowers in the garden." Elena walked through slowly, touching the walls, the furniture, the curtains. All new, all beautiful. Tears flowed constantly. "The house is in both our names," David said quietly. "You and me, as Sophia's parents. I'll stay in my penthouse during the week for work, but I'd like to be here on weekends, if that's okay with you." Elena turned to him. "David, you're giving us everything. How can I ever repay you?" "You already did," David said. "You gave me back my daughter." Over the following months, a routine developed. During the week, Sophia stayed with David at his penthouse, close to the office and her tutoring sessions. On weekends, they went to the house where Elena lived, working her new job at a non-profit organization David had connected her with. Sophia thrived. She grew taller, healthier, more confident. Her education accelerated. She was remarkably bright and absorbed knowledge like a sponge. But more importantly, she remained kind, always the first to help others, to share, to care. The office staff grew to love her genuinely. She remembered everyone's names, asked about their families, drew pictures for them on their birthdays. She became the unofficial mascot of Chen Technologies, appearing in their charity campaigns and bringing positive attention to the company. One Saturday afternoon, David was in the garden of the house, teaching Sophia how to plant tomatoes. Elena watched from the kitchen window, her heart full. Maria, who had become a close friend, stood beside her. "You love him, don't you?" Elena startled. "What? I don't." "You do," Maria said gently. "And he loves you too, though he's too careful to say it yet." "It's complicated," Elena whispered. "He's still grieving his daughter. And I'm just the woman who found Sophia." "You're the woman who saved Sophia," Maria corrected. "You're the woman who taught her everything good she knows. You're the woman who makes him smile. Stop selling yourself short, Elena." In the garden, Sophia asked David, "Daddy, do you think Mama is pretty?" David froze mid-dig. "What kind of question is that?" "An important one," Sophia said seriously. "Because I think she's very pretty. And she's nice. And she makes good food. And she makes you happy." David looked at his daughter. This wise little soul. "Yes, Sophia. Mama is very pretty. And kind. And special. Then why don't you marry her?" David nearly dropped his trowel. "Sophia. What? That's what people do when they love each other. And you love Mama, right? Not just because she's my mama, but because she's special." David sat back on his heels. Leave it to a 7-year-old to cut through all his complicated emotions and get right to the truth. Did he love Elena? Yes. He did. He loved her gentleness, her strength, her selflessness. He loved how she'd given everything for a child who wasn't biologically hers. He loved how she never asked for anything, never took advantage, never showed anything but gratitude and grace. And more than that, he loved how she made him feel. Not like a billionaire or a CEO, but like a man. Like someone who could build a real life beyond business and success. "Sophia," David said carefully, "love is complicated for grown-ups." "Why? Either you love someone or you don't." "It's not that simple." "Yes, it is," Sophia insisted. "I love you. I love Mama. You love me. You love Mama. Mama loves both of us. So we should all be together forever." "What's complicated?" David laughed despite himself. "When did you become so wise?" "I've always been wise," Sophia said matter-of-factly. "You just didn't notice because I'm small." That evening, after Sophia went to bed, David and Elena sat on the porch watching the stars. The silence between them was comfortable, but charged with unspoken feelings. "Elena," David said finally, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "These past few months, have you been happy? Living like this, sharing Sophia, building this, whatever this is we're building?" Elena smiled softly. "I've been happier than I ever imagined possible." "Me too," David admitted. He turned to look at her. "I thought after Lily died, I'd never feel whole again. But you and Sophia, you've healed something in me I didn't think could be healed." Elena's breath caught. "David, I'm not asking for anything," he said quickly. "I just wanted you to know. You matter to me, Elena. Not just as Sophia's mother, but as you." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "You matter to me too. More than I should probably admit." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their confessions hanging in the warm night air. "Maybe," David said quietly, "we could see where this goes? Slowly, carefully, but together." Elena smiled through her tears. "I'd like that." Inside the house, Sophia peeked through her bedroom curtains and grinned. She'd heard everything. Sometimes, she thought, grown-ups needed a little push. Her family was finally coming together, exactly as it should be. Life seemed perfect for the first time in years. David's company was thriving, Sophia was blossoming, and his relationship with Elena was growing deeper every day. But peace never lasts forever. It started with a phone call. David was in his office when Maria rushed in, her face pale. "Sir, there's a woman in the lobby claiming to be Sophia's biological mother." David's world stopped. "What?" "Her name is Teresa Santos. She has documents, a hospital record from March 2018 showing she gave birth. She's demanding to see Sophia." David stood so fast his chair rolled backward. "Don't let her near Sophia." "Where is Sophia now?" "In her corner with her tutor. I had security lock down that floor. No one gets up without your approval." "Good." David's mind raced. "Get my lawyer here immediately. And call the police. We need to verify who this woman really is." Downstairs in the lobby, Teresa Santos stood near the reception desk. She was thin, worn-looking, probably in her early 30s. Her clothes were cheap but clean. She clutched a folder of papers against her chest. David approached her calmly, though his heart pounded. "Ms. Santos? I'm David Chin." Teresa looked up at him with desperate eyes. "You're the man who has my daughter." "I have a lot of questions before we go any further," David said carefully. "Let's talk in a private meeting room." Once they were seated with Maria taking notes and security nearby, David asked, "Why now? If Sophia is your daughter, why show up 7 years later?" Teresa's hands shook. "I didn't want to give her up. I was sick, tuberculosis. I was dying. I left her where I knew someone would find her quickly, where she'd be safe." "And you recovered?" "Yes. It took 3 years of treatment, but I survived. By then, I didn't know where Sophia was. I've been searching for 2 years." David studied her carefully. "How did you find her?" "I saw her picture in a magazine article about your company's charity work. The article mentioned a 7-year-old named Sophia who you'd taken in. The age matched. And when I saw her face..." Teresa pulled out a photo from her folder. It showed a young woman holding a newborn baby. "That's me the day she was born, taken by a nurse. Look at the baby. Now look at your Sophia." The resemblance was undeniable. The same eyes, the same nose, the same expression. David's lawyer, Martin, who had arrived quickly, examined the documents. "These birth records look legitimate. They list Teresa Santos as the mother and father unknown. The date matches what we know about Sophia." "I want a DNA test," David said firmly. "Of course," Teresa agreed immediately. "I'll take any test you want. I just want to see my daughter. Before that happens, I need to understand your intentions. Are you trying to take Sophia away?" Teresa's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know. I've missed 7 years of her life. I need to know she's okay. I need to see her." David's protective instincts roared. "She's more than okay. She's happy, healthy, loved. She has a mother who raised her, Elena, the woman who found her and gave her everything." "I'm grateful to Elena," Teresa said quietly. "But I'm her real mother. Don't I have rights?" "Rights?" David's voice turned hard. "You abandoned her in a box behind a warehouse. To save her life." Teresa cried. "I was coughing up blood. I had no family, no money, no way to care for a baby. I was 19 years old and terrified. I thought I was going to die. I did what I thought was best." The pain in her voice was real. David could see that, even through his anger and fear. Martin spoke carefully. "Mr. Chen, legally, if she can prove biological parentage and if there are no legal adoption papers, which there aren't, since Elena never formally adopted Sophia, Teresa could have a claim for custody." David felt sick. "No. Absolutely not. Sophia is happy. She's thriving. You can't just rip her away from the only family she's ever known. I don't want to rip her away, Teresa said desperately. I just want to know her. To be part of her life somehow. Why should I trust you won't try to take her? Teresa looked directly into David's eyes. Because I read that article carefully. I saw how Sophia looked at you. How you looked at her. I saw that she called you Daddy, and looked happy. I may be her biological mother, but I'm not stupid. Taking her away from the life she has now would be cruel. I just want to meet her. To know she's really okay. And maybe to be in her life, even if it's just a small part. The meeting ended with an agreement. Teresa would take a DNA test. If it confirmed she was Sophia's biological mother, they would discuss how to proceed. Until then, she would not approach Sophia. That evening, David sat Sophia and Elena down to explain what was happening. Sophia listened carefully, her face serious. So there's a lady who says she's my first mama? Yes, David said gently. The mama who gave birth to you. But Sophia, you need to understand. Mama Elena is your real mother in every way that matters. She raised you, loved you, cared for you. Sophia looked at Elena. You're my mama. That won't change, right? Elena pulled Sophia close, crying. Never, my darling. Never. But, Sophia said thoughtfully, if this lady is my birth mama, and she wants to see me, shouldn't I meet her? Just to see. David was surprised by Sophia's maturity. You're not scared. A little, Sophia admitted. But Mama Elena always taught me to be brave. And maybe this lady has been sad all these years, not knowing if I was okay. Elena stroked Sophia's hair with tears running down her face. You have such a big heart, my precious girl. 3 days later, the DNA results came back. Teresa Santos was indeed Sophia's biological mother, with 99.99% certainty. David felt like the ground was shifting beneath him. Sophia had 3 parents now, himself, Elena, and Teresa. How would they navigate this? The meeting was arranged carefully. They chose a quiet park, neutral territory. David, Elena, and Sophia arrived first. Sophia wore her favorite yellow dress and held tight to Elena's hand. When Teresa arrived, she stopped several feet away, staring at Sophia with tears streaming down her face. Hi, Sophia said softly. Hi, Teresa whispered back. You're so beautiful. So big. They stood there awkwardly until Sophia, with her natural kindness, said, Do you want to sit with us? Teresa nodded and sat on the bench nearby, not too close, respecting boundaries. For an hour, they talked carefully. Teresa told Sophia about the day she was born. How she'd been scared but also filled with love. How leaving her had been the hardest thing she'd ever done. Why didn't you come back sooner? Sophia asked innocently. I was very sick, sweetheart. It took years to get better. And then I didn't know how to find you. I looked everywhere. Sophia thought about this. Then she said, I'm glad you got better. Mama Elena says being sick is very scary. Teresa looked at Elena with genuine gratitude. Thank you for taking care of her. Thank you for loving her when I couldn't. Elena nodded, tears in her eyes. She's easy to love. As the meeting ended, Sophia surprised everyone by walking up to Teresa and hugging her quickly. I'm glad you're not sick anymore, she said simply. Teresa broke down, holding Sophia gently for just a moment before letting her go. As they walked back to the car, Sophia held Elena's hand. Mama, I met my birth mama, but you're still my real mama. Always, Elena whispered. David watched them, his heart full of complex emotions. This situation wasn't simple, wasn't easy, but they would figure it out. They would find a way to honor everyone's place in Sophia's life while keeping her safe and happy. Because that's what family did. They found solutions with love. The weeks following Teresa's appearance were tense but carefully managed. David's lawyer drew up a co-parenting agreement that protected everyone's interests while focusing on Sophia's well-being. The arrangement was unprecedented but surprisingly functional. Elena remained Sophia's primary mother and legal guardian. David was her father with full parental rights. Teresa was granted supervised visitation twice a month, with the possibility of increased time as everyone adjusted. What surprised everyone most was Sophia's grace in handling it all. "I have 3 parents," she told her tutor matter-of-factly. "Mama Elena who raised me, Daddy who found me, and Teresa who gave birth to me. Some kids don't have any parents. I'm really lucky." Her simple wisdom put things in perspective for all the adults struggling with the complexity. The first few supervised visits were awkward. Teresa would come to the park, and they'd sit on benches while Sophia played or showed her drawings. David or Elena always stayed nearby, protective but trying to give space. "Tell me about school," Teresa would ask tentatively. Sophia would chatter happily about her tutor, her friends at the office, the things she was learning. Teresa soaked up every word, memorizing every detail of the daughter she'd missed. One afternoon, Teresa brought a small gift, a hand-knitted scarf in yellow, Sophia's favorite color. "Did you make this?" Sophia asked, touching it gently. "Yes. I've been learning to knit. I thought you might like it." Sophia wrapped it around her neck despite the Manila heat. "I love it. Thank you, Teresa." The use of her first name rather than Mom stung Teresa, but she understood. She hadn't earned that title yet. Maybe she never would. But she could be Sophia's friend, her support, her connection to where she came from. Elena watched these interactions with mixed emotions. Part of her was threatened. What if Sophia preferred Teresa? But the bigger part of her was proud. Sophia's kindness toward Teresa reflected the values Elena had instilled in her. "You're very gracious," David said to Elena one evening as they watched Sophia and Teresa look at old photos together during a visit. "It's not easy," Elena admitted. "But Teresa gave her life. I gave her love. We're both her mothers in different ways." David took Elena's hand. "You're an remarkable woman." Their relationship had continued growing stronger. They still hadn't defined it officially, but everyone could see they were falling in love. They spent more time together, had dinner as a family unit, and David found himself spending more weekends at the house than at his penthouse. Sophia, of course, noticed everything. She'd started making comments like, "Daddy, your toothbrush should just live here." Or, "Mama, you should get a bigger bed in case Daddy wants to watch movies with you." The adults would blush and change the subject, but Sophia's campaign was relentless. Meanwhile, Chen Technologies continued to flourish. The positive publicity from Sophia's story, handled carefully and with her consent, had made the company a symbol of corporate social responsibility. They'd launched a foundation specifically for abandoned children, helping them find families and resources. Teresa, wanting to contribute something meaningful, volunteered at the foundation. She was good with the children, patient, understanding, and committed. Slowly, she rebuilt her life with purpose. One Saturday, 6 months after Teresa's appearance, something unexpected happened. They were all at the house. David, Elena, Sophia, and Teresa had been invited for lunch. It was Sophia's 8th birthday, and she'd insisted that Teresa should be there. As they ate cake in the garden, Sophia stood up suddenly. "I want to make a speech." The adults looked at each other, amused and curious. Sophia cleared her throat importantly. "I'm 8 years old today. Mama Elena says that's old enough to understand important things." "Very true," Elena said with a smile. "So I want to say something to everyone." Sophia looked at Teresa first. "Teresa, thank you for giving birth to me. I know it was hard to leave me, but you did it so I could live. That was brave." Teresa's eyes filled with tears. Sophia turned to Elena. "Mama, thank you for finding me and loving me every single day. You're the best mama in the whole world." Elena wiped her eyes, smiling. Finally, Sophia looked at David. "Daddy, Thank you for being my real father and for taking care of me and Mama. You make us both so happy." David's throat tightened with emotion. "But there's one more thing," Sophia continued. "I think all the grown-ups are being silly." Everyone looked surprised. "Daddy, you love Mama. Mama, you love Daddy. Everyone can see it. Why don't you just get married already? Then we can be a real family officially." The adults froze. Teresa looked down at her cake, uncomfortable but not opposed. Elena turned bright red. David's eyes went wide. "Sophia." Elena gasped. "What?" "It's true. I asked Miss Maria, and she said you're both just being careful and slow. But why be slow? Life is short. We should be together." Out of the mouths of babes, David thought. He stood up slowly and walked to where Elena sat. His heart pounded, but Sophia was right. Why wait? Why be slow when they both knew what they wanted? "Elena," he said gently. She looked up at him, eyes wide. "Your daughter makes an excellent point. I've been careful and slow because I didn't want to rush you or push you. But the truth is, I love you. I love your kindness, your strength, your grace. I love how you raised Sophia to be extraordinary. I love waking up and knowing I'll see you. I love falling asleep thinking about you." Elena's hands went to her mouth. David knelt down, and Maria, who had mysteriously appeared in the garden with a small box, handed it to him with a knowing smile. "I had this ready for a month," David admitted. "I was waiting for the perfect moment. But our daughter just created it." He opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant diamond ring. "Elena, will you marry me? Will you officially be my family?" Elena looked at Sophia, who was bouncing with excitement. She looked at Teresa, who was smiling with genuine happiness. She looked at Maria, who gave her an encouraging nod. Then she looked at David, the man who had changed everything. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." The garden erupted in cheers. Sophia jumped up and down, clapping. "Finally. Finally they listened to me." As David slipped the ring on Elena's finger, Teresa stood and quietly excused herself. But Elena stopped her. "Teresa, wait. Don't go." Teresa turned back, surprised. Elena walked to her and took her hand. "You're part of this story. You're part of Sophia's life. We're not a conventional family, but we're a family nonetheless. Please stay." Teresa's tears flowed freely. "Are you sure? Sophia wants you here. That's enough for me." The five of them, David, Elena, Sophia, Teresa, and Maria, sat together in the garden as the sun set, celebrating not just a birthday or an engagement, but the complex, beautiful family they'd built together. It wasn't traditional. It wasn't simple. But it was filled with love, and that was all that mattered. 6 months later, on a perfect Manila morning, Elena stood in front of a mirror, adjusting her simple white dress. She'd chosen something elegant but not extravagant. This wasn't about show. This was about love. Maria stood beside her, pinning flowers into her hair. "Nervous. Terrified," Elena admitted with a laugh. "Not about marrying David. That's the easiest decision I've ever made. But nervous about everything being so perfect. Like I'm in a dream." "You deserve this dream," Maria said firmly. "After everything you've been through, you deserve every bit of happiness." A knock on the door revealed Sophia, wearing a beautiful yellow flower girl dress. She twirled, making the skirt float. "Mama, look. Do I look like a princess?" "You look perfect, my darling." Sophia came close and hugged Elena tightly. "Today you become Mrs. Chen officially. But you've been my mama forever." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "And I'll be your mama forevermore. Don't cry. Your makeup." Maria laughed, dabbing Elena's eyes. The wedding was small and intimate, held in the garden of their home. Only close friends, family, and some key employees were invited. Maybe 50 people total. White flowers adorned every surface, and soft music played from hidden speakers. Teresa sat in the third row, wearing a modest but pretty dress. She'd been hesitant about coming, but Sophia had insisted. "You're part of my story," Sophia had said. "You should be there." As the music changed, Elena walked down the makeshift aisle. She'd chosen to walk alone. She didn't need anyone to give her away. She was her own person, making her own choice. But halfway down, Sophia ran to join her, taking her hand. Elena smiled, and they walked together toward David. David stood at the altar, his eyes locked on them. He wore a simple dark suit, and his expression was one of pure joy. Beside him stood his best man, Mr. Reyes from the board, who had become a good friend. When Elena reached him, David whispered, "You're beautiful." "You're biased," she whispered back, smiling. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. They'd written their own vows. David went first. "Elena, you walked into my life as the mother of a brave little girl who needed help. You taught me what true selflessness looks like. You raised my daughter to be extraordinary. You brought light back into my life when I thought I'd live in darkness forever. I promise to love you, honor you, and support you for all my days. I promise to be the best father and husband I can be. And I promise that our family will always be built on love, respect, and compassion." Elena's turn. "David, you were a stranger who saw a child in need and didn't hesitate to help. You gave Sophia and me more than money or security. You gave us dignity, opportunity, and love. You've shown me that family isn't just about blood. It's about choosing each other every day. I promise to love you in good times and bad. I promise to build a life with you that honors both the children we've lost and the child we share. And I promise that our home will always be filled with laughter, kindness, and hope." There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, David kissed Elena gently. Sophia, standing between them, threw her arms around both their legs, creating a group hug that made everyone laugh. "We're officially a family now," Sophia announced to the crowd. The reception was joyful and relaxed. People ate, laughed, danced, and celebrated. Teresa helped serve food, content to contribute without seeking attention. At one point, Elena approached her. "Thank you for being here," Elena said. "Thank you for inviting me," Teresa replied. "And Elena, I want you to know, I'm genuinely happy for you. You and David are good together. Sophia is lucky to have you both." "She's lucky to have you too," Elena said sincerely. "You gave her life. That matters." The two women hugged, an embrace that represented healing, forgiveness, and the complex love they both held for the same child. As the sun began to set, David called for everyone's attention. "I have one more announcement," he said, standing with Elena and Sophia. The crowd quieted. Many of you know Sophia's story, how she walked into my office barefoot and brave, asking for work to save her mother. That day changed my life forever. It reminded me what truly matters: family, compassion, and using whatever resources we have to help others. He paused, looking at the faces around him. "That's why Elena and I have decided to expand the foundation. We're creating the Sophia Hope Foundation, a comprehensive program to help abandoned children, struggling single parents, and families in crisis. We're committing 50 million pesos initially, with more to come." The crowd burst into applause. "But more than that," David continued, "we're creating a scholarship program in Lily's name, my late daughter, to help children like Sophia get the education they deserve. Because every child deserves a chance to thrive." Sophia tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy, can I say something?" David handed her the microphone, lifting her up so everyone could see her. Sophia's voice rang clear and strong. "When I was little and had no shoes, I was scared every day. I thought nobody cared about kids like me. But then I met Daddy, and Mama Elena loved me, and Teresa gave me life, and Miss Maria became my friend. I learned that families can be made in lots of ways. And I learned that one person being kind can change everything. She looked around at all the faces watching her. So if you see someone who needs help, especially a kid, please be kind. You might be changing their whole life. The applause was thunderous. Even Teresa was openly crying. As the party continued, David and Elena snuck away for a quiet moment alone in the garden. Can you believe this is our life? Elena whispered, leaning against David. Sometimes it feels like a dream, he admitted. A year ago, I was just going through the motions. Now I have you, Sophia, a purpose, everything. Do you ever think about how differently things could have gone? If Sophia hadn't been brave enough to walk into your building. All the time, David said. If she'd gone somewhere else. If security had turned her away before Maria saw her. If I'd been too busy that day. He shuddered. I don't like thinking about those possibilities. But she did come. And you did help. And here we are. David turned to face Elena, taking both her hands. Here we are. Mr. and Mrs. Chin. Partners in business, in parenting, in life. Forever, Elena agreed. They kissed as the last rays of sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and pink. 3 years later. Sophia, now 11 years old, stood in front of her 5th grade class at the prestigious Manila International School. She was giving a presentation about her family for a school project. My family is different from most families, she began confidently. I have Mama Elena, who found me when I was a baby and raised me with love. I have Daddy David, who is my biological father and who saved my mama when she was sick. And I have Teresa, my birth mother, who I see once a month. She teaches art to kids at our foundation. She clicked to the next slide, showing a picture of all of them together at her last birthday party. Some people think it's weird to have 3 parents. But I think I'm lucky. I have 3 people who love me and want me to be happy. And I learned that family isn't about being normal. It's about loving each other no matter what. Her classmates clapped enthusiastically. Her teacher, Miss Santos, smiled with tears in her eyes. She knew Sophia's full story. Everyone did. Sophia had become somewhat famous as the face of the Hope Foundation, appearing in campaigns and speaking at events. But despite her public role, Sophia remained remarkably humble and kind. She tutored younger students, volunteered at the foundation, and always stood up for kids who were bullied or left out. That evening, the family gathered at home for dinner, their Friday tradition. David had cooked, with Elena's supervision, and Sophia had set the table with flowers she'd picked from the garden. As they ate, Sophia announced, I've decided what I want to be when I grow up. Oh. David raised an eyebrow. Last week you wanted to be an astronaut. That was last week, Sophia said with exaggerated patience. This week I know for sure. I want to run the Hope Foundation. I want to help kids like me find families and get chances. Elena and David exchanged glances, both fighting tears. That's a beautiful goal, Elena said softly. But first, Sophia continued, I need to finish school, go to university, learn about business and social work, and probably learn 3 more languages. Miss Maria says running a foundation is hard work. David laughed. Miss Maria is right. But if anyone can do it, you can. Of course I can, Sophia said matter-of-factly. I have the best parents to teach me. 3 of them, actually. Plus Miss Maria. And Mr. Reyes said he'd teach me about finance. I have a whole team. Later that night, after Sophia had gone to bed, David and Elena sat on their porch swing, wrapped in a blanket against the cool evening breeze. She's going to change the world, Elena whispered. She already has, David replied. She changed mine. Elena rested her head on his shoulder. Do you ever regret it? Taking us in? Everything got so complicated. Not for 1 second, David said firmly. Complicated is just another word for full. Our life is full. Of love, of purpose, of meaning. I'll take complicated and full over simple and empty any day. Me too, Elena agreed. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. Inside the house, Sophia was supposed to be sleeping. But instead, she was writing in her journal, a habit her tutor had encouraged. Dear Diary. Today I told my class about my family. Some kids said it was weird having 3 parents. But I don't think it's weird. I think it's special. Mama Elena taught me to be kind. Daddy taught me to be brave. Teresa taught me that sometimes loving someone means letting them go so they can have a better life. I'm the luckiest girl in the world. I started with nothing. No shoes, no money, just love for my mama. Now I have everything. Not because we're rich, even though Daddy is, but because we love each other. Tomorrow is Saturday. We're going to the foundation to help paint the new playroom. Teresa will be there, and Mama will make sandwiches, and Daddy will probably get paint in his hair like last time. It will be perfect. I hope every kid who feels alone right now finds their family someday. Everyone deserves to be loved. Good night. Diary. Love, Sophia Chen. She closed the journal, turned off her light, and fell asleep smiling. 5 years later. Epilogue. Sophia, now 16, stood at a podium in front of hundreds of people. She was delivering the keynote speech at the Hope Foundation's 10th anniversary gala. 10 years ago, she began, her voice clear and confident. A scared 7-year-old girl walked barefoot into a billionaire's office. She had nothing but courage and love for her mother. She didn't know that day would change not just her life, but the lives of thousands of children. She paused, making eye contact with the audience. I was that girl. And the man who helped me was my father, David Chen, though neither of us knew it at the time. In the front row, David, Elena, and Teresa sat together, all 3 dabbing their eyes. Since then, the Hope Foundation has helped place 847 abandoned children into loving homes. We've provided scholarships to 1,200 students. We've supported 400 single parents with job training and healthcare. These aren't just numbers, they're lives. They're families. They're futures. The audience erupted in applause. But the most important thing I've learned, Sophia continued, is that love creates family. Blood, adoption, choice. It doesn't matter how family is formed. What matters is showing up. What matters is caring. What matters is being there even when it's hard. She looked directly at her 3 parents. I'm blessed to have learned that lesson from 3 incredible people who all loved me in different ways. And now, it's my mission to help other children experience that same love. As the gala continued, Sophia circulated through the crowd, shaking hands, thanking donors, and speaking passionately about the foundation's work. She was poised, articulate, and completely genuine, a remarkable young woman who never forgot where she came from. Later, as the family drove home together, Teresa had become a regular part of family events. Sophia said, "You know what the best part of tonight was?" "What?" David asked. "Seeing all those kids who found families because we helped them. Their faces were so happy. That's what it's all about." Elena squeezed her hand. "You have your father's heart for business and my heart for people. It's a powerful combination." "And Teresa's creativity," Sophia added, smiling at Teresa in the back seat. "The art therapy program was brilliant." Teresa beamed. "You make me proud, Sophia. So proud." That night, as Sophia prepared for bed, she looked at the photo on her nightstand. It showed a barefoot little girl in a dirty dress standing next to a tall man in an expensive suit. She barely recognized herself, not because she looked different, but because she felt so different. That little girl had been scared but brave. She'd had nothing but hope. This young woman had everything, not because of money, but because of love. She'd learned that families come in all forms. That kindness can change lives. That courage means asking for help when you need it. And that sometimes, the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. Sophia Chen had walked into a billionaire's office with nothing. She'd walked out with everything that truly mattered: family, purpose, and love. And that, she thought as she turned off the light, was the greatest success story of all. The end. We hope Sophia's story touched your heart. If you enjoyed this journey, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories. Comment below. What lesson from Sophia's story will you carry with you? Was it about courage? Family? Second chances? We'd love to hear from you. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that no matter how dark things seem, hope and love can change everything. Every act of kindness matters. Every person has value. Every child deserves a chance. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. Remember, you never know how one moment of compassion might change someone's entire life. Be kind. Be brave. Be the light someone needs. See you in the next story. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our inspiring content.